Right. Okay.
Good news. Good news. Good news.
Hi, Pottercast listeners, Melissa here. John, Frankie, Zach, and I are taking a little holiday break, so we thought it was high time, especially for those of you who are new, that we replayed what we will always consider our most exciting episode ever, our complete interview with J.K. Rowling.
I imagine it, well, there are huge parallels. Splitting the atom would be a very good parallel in our world. Something that people imagined might be able to be done but couldn't quite bring it off. And then people started doing it with sometimes catastrophic effects. So that's how I see the Horcrux. He needed to understand, I think, and does completely understand and did completely understand where this bitterness towards this boy, who's living proof of her preference for another man, came from.
This was taped in late 2007, less than 6 months after the publication of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which means we were hashing through a lot of interesting theories and discussions with Jo, and it was one of the first times she was able to discuss the series without holding anything back. Some of these things are now proving relevant as we talk about Fantastic Beasts. The Pottercasters at the time were John Noe, Sue Upton, and myself. You'll also hear discussion of an auction. This was taped the day that Jo's Tales of Beedle the Bard copy went on auction and raised £2 million for charity, and Jo was a little bit excited about it. So enjoy. One last bit of housekeeping before I go. Thank you all so much for reminding us that you still listen to and enjoy the show after all these years. Please drop us a line or a comment or a theory at staff@pottercast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter @Pottercast. And though we told you it was happening last time, we can now officially say that our Patreon page is up. We didn't even tweet this link, but a bunch of you found it already and became supporters. Thank you so much. It's just the beginning of the community there, and we're going to have a lot of fun. If you'd like to support the show, please do so at patreon.com/Pottercast. We appreciate any level of support, and we appreciate just you listening. Please only support if you have the means to do so, and if you do, thank you so much. We look forward to having a lot of fun inside that community. In the meantime, we hope you are all enjoying a safe, warm, special holiday, and we're looking forward to a full year of Potter podcasting in 2017. Now enjoy this truly momentous talk with the one and only J.K. Rowling. I can't tell you how long we've joked in a total, outer space fashion about you doing that intro one day.
Do you know what my favourite bit was? Melissa, when you posted the thing about anyone got extra questions, what loose ends would you like tied up? And the very first comment was, yeah, that's a strange thing to ask us, Melissa. Almost like someone was coming on who could answer those questions. I really liked that.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because I have to apologize to the reader of our site called Nimbus XL, who actually said that. And I actually came the closest to lying that I've ever done on Leaky, when I told everybody, calm down, we'd tell you if it was Jo, everybody relax.
Melissa and Nelly, you filthy, filthy liar.
Yes, that's me.
Previously respected web mistress.
Yeah, no more. I hand it all in. I'm done. Oh gosh, but we wanted to save the surprise, and Jo, that's what this hopefully is, a nice pre-Christmas surprise.
Cool.
for everybody. So I'm more excited than anything that John and Sue now have the chance to get to hear and have this talk.
We're going to give it a shot. I was stunned silly the last time I saw her. I could hardly say anything, but
you were completely
I can't really see her
lovely.
right now, so.
You're missing nothing, I tell you. I'm not looking good at the moment. A couple of weeks of Christmas shopping and a lot of really hectic life has taken it out of me.
And you've had quite a banner day already with the auction too and everything. It's just been amazing for Mr. Beedle.
I feel kind of shell-shocked at the moment. We just watched the auction live. This is of Beedle the Bard, in case anyone doesn't know what the hell we're talking about. And it went for £1.95 £1 million, and I can't tell you what that means. It's unbelievable. I'm really staggered, and I'm so excited. It's just going to make a really big difference to the charity, and it was a means of raising awareness of the charity, which was at least as important as the money. So it's really done that job. God, I'm so happy. Can't tell you.
Oh, well, it's just brilliant. And but we're all so curious though, Joe, is there any little tidbits that you can reveal now?
What about Beedle the Bard, the stories thereof? Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you, let's think. Wizard and the Hopping Pot is kind of the moral, really, it's to teach young wizards and witches that they should be using their magic altruistically.
Oh, okay.
Then Fountain of Fair Fortune is my favourite one, and that's really about the qualities you need to achieve your heart's desire, and the moral being that magic ultimately is not the best weapon. Warlock's Hairy Heart is quite gothic. It's quite dark, that one. And Voldemort would have done well to know that story before he set out on his campaign of terror. Babbity Rabbity and Her Cackling Stump is the stupidest title ever written by man or beast. And of course, when I wrote it, I had not at the point when I gave Ron that title, I didn't imagine for a second that I was actually going to write the story. Yeah. And I did have there was this kind of margin of time where I could have, where I knew I was going to write Beedle the Bard and the book wasn't published. We were still editing, and I could have gone back and changed the titles. And I really liked the idea of keeping those titles and then finding out what the stories were. So, but Babbity Rabbity was a challenge. But I did get there, and it's a story about revenge, one witch's sort of cunning way of revenging herself for persecution, for Muggle persecution. And then the tale of the three brothers.
Yeah.
Which is the last one in the book. So I've just given them to you chronologically as they appear in the book. I loved writing them. I really, really loved writing them. But I have to say that before I had the idea of producing the books to say thank you to these key people, I imagined there would be like about 30 tales of Beedle the Bard. And after I had the idea of writing them out by hand 7 times, turned out there were just the 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't thank you enough for that copy, Joe. I've been reading it to the girls here over the weeks. And
yeah, did you like it? The diamond encrusted version.
It was amazing, and the cover was beautiful.
You don't think it's a bit too bling?
Well, no. I mean, I have a lot of that stuff on my wall already, so it just kind of fit right in perfectly.
John, it was my pleasure.
So
thank you for the inspiration.
It was a pleasure to read it. I do what I could. So.
And did you like the dedication? You were right all along about Horcrux.
Oh no! Oh no! There's that word.
Nobody would believe me.
Well, I did.
He's never going to let us down.
I did write him a letter, and I did say that actually Horcrux is. I mean, it occurred to me, it really would have been, I think, a more correct plural. But I already had him fairy, and I didn't want to have too many, dark arts weapons ending in RI. So it was a kind of stylistic choice, really. I like Horcruxes as a plural.
It's grown on me
as
too.
a linguist. Oh, thanks, John. You're too kind. See, this is why I give him copies of the Beedle the Bard. He's a generous man.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Joe, but those Horcruxes, though, I tell you, there's so much to ask still about those, I mean, we have to know, who created the first Horcrux? Was it Grindelwald? Salazar? Who did that?
Do you know what? I've got a feeling it was Herpo, which is Herpo. I think I call him Herpo the Foul. Exactly, yeah. Yeah. But wizards would have been looking for ways to do exactly what Voldemort did for years, and some of the ways they would have tried would have killed them. So I imagine it. Well, there are huge parallels. Splitting the atom would be a very good parallel in our world. Something that people imagined might be able to be done, but couldn't quite bring it off. And then people started doing it with sometimes catastrophic effects. So that's how I see the Horcrux.
Right, because you said that Tom Riddle said there had been, or Dumbledore did. Somebody said that there was only one person.
Slughorn.
That was it. Yeah. And we were just.
Yeah, but I would imagine that other people are going to have tried. I mean, I think it would be naive not to think that people have been trying for a long time and thought they succeeded and hadn't, or else, maimed themselves or killed themselves in the attempt. It's such a dangerous thing to do.
Oh, evil thing, just.
Yeah.
What is the process? Is there a spell? What do they have to do?
I see it as a series of things you would have to do. So you would have to perform a spell. But you would also, I don't even know if I want to say it out loud. I know that sounds funny, but I did really think it through. There are two things that I think are too horrible actually to go into detail about. One of them is how Pettigrew brought Voldemort back into a rudimentary body.
Yeah.
Because I told my editor what I thought happened there, and she looked as though she was going to vomit. And then, and the other thing is how you make a Horcrux. And I don't even like, I don't know. Will it be in the encyclopedia? I don't know if I can bring myself to, I don't know.
Oh, Joe, you mentioned the E word. It's like,
oh, God, yeah. God, yes, I did.
Yeah.
We should call it something like the Scottish book.
Yeah.
The Scottish book.
Oh, jeez. You don't want to curse it now, Joe.
It must not be mentioned live on air.
Yeah, exactly. We can't wait for that. We hope you get on that as soon as you feel comfortable doing so.
Yeah. Would it be okay if that's 10 years? No one laughed. No, listen, I absolutely do intend to do it, but I can't pretend that I'm in a hurry right now. It's going to be a hell of a lot of work, but I have, I've kept everything, and I know where things are, and yeah, at some point I will get myself together and do it.
I was going to offer, just in case you needed help on that particular chapter, I've got a lot of baby pictures and childhood anecdotes for the Dawlish chapter.
Here we go.
That might just help fill things in a little bit.
You know what? Again, John, you're always there when I need you. That's great. That would be great.
Joe, he idolizes a man, an Arg, who got pwned by an old lady wearing a dead bird on her head, on her hat. Now, come on.
You guys, now they don't understand this, Joe. I know we've talked about this. They don't understand the night that they call it a duel. It wasn't a duel, at least in my mind anyway. I think it needs a little explaining of how somebody as skillful as Dawlish, could have, got taken down like this.
John.
And feel free to let all the air out of my cells. That's fine.
John maintains that she sucker punched him.
You know what?
She sucker spelled
I find it so incredibly endearing that you like Dawlish. And that's why his name is now John Dawlish, as we know. In tribute to you, and that will indeed be a note in the encyclopedia, or the Scottish book, as we are now calling it.
Yes.
Dawlish had to be good. He had to be good because he became an Auror. There's no denying that. But he has his weaknesses, and Dumbledore knew how to exploit them. And let's face it, anyone going up to Dumbledore pre-trying on the Horcrux, pre-maiming his hand, anyone is going to be in trouble going up against Dumbledore. Even Voldemort didn't want to do it. So it's no dishonor to Dawlish.
Well, certainly. Was Dumbledore involved in
weakening him?
They said it was Mrs. Longbottom.
Well, that's after by the time Augusta Longbottom got to him, he had been several people had attacked Dawlish. I think he was a bit punch drunk by that point. He had become a favorite punch bag of the Order of the Phoenix by then. So I don't think he was firing on all cylinders, but no, I really saw Mrs. Longbottom as a powerful witch.
Yes.
So, sorry.
I suppose.
Do you know, I went down to Leavesden recently, and I saw Michael Gambon with his withered hand. That was quite exciting. Yeah.
Gosh.
There was just a funny report about Michael Gambon, and we're pretty sure he was joking about that he was scandalized to learn that one of his lines was lifted directly from the book and was railing around, cursing and throwing things.
How dare they use your words, Joe?
Listen, Michael has a very good and very dry sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And you should really, he's a funny man. And you should bear that in mind and not take things as they may appear flat on the page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Dumbledore,
bless his little heart.
We want to talk about Dumbledore so bad. We know that you've created worldwide intrigue when you said that he's gay, but I wanted to ask you about homosexuality in the wizarding world in general. Is it a taboo?
Now, that's something I never thought of. I would think that would be exactly what it is in the Muggle world. But the greatest taboo in the wizarding world is, well, for some wizards, I mean, if we're talking about prejudiced people within the wizarding world, what they care most about is your blood status. So I think you could be gay, pure blood, and totally without any kind of criticism from the Lucius Malfoys of the world. I don't think that would be something that would interest him in the slightest. But, I can't answer for all witches and wizards, because I think in matters of the heart, it would be directly parallel to our world.
Yeah. The reaction was so astronomical to that.
Well, I said it to you, Melissa, before. I think that to me it's wrong not to answer a question honestly. I just think that's immoral. And I was asked that question by a young woman at Carnegie Hall who prefaced her question by saying, these books have helped me be more fully myself. Well, I mean, that's just one of the most wonderful things anyone has ever said to me about the books. And then she asked, has Dumbledore ever been in love? Now, so I was absolutely honest about how I saw the character. I always imagined that Dumbledore was gay. How relevant is that to the books? Well, it's only relevant if you considered that his feelings for Grindelwald, as revealed in the 7th book, were an infatuation rather than a straightforward friendship. That's how I think. In fact, I know that some perhaps sensitive adult readers had already seen that. I don't think that came as a big surprise to some adult readers. I think a child would see a friendship and a very devoted friendship, but these things also occur. So how relevant is it? Well, to me, it was only relevant in as much as Dumbledore, who was the great defender of love and who sincerely believed that love was the greatest, most powerful force in the universe, was himself made a fool of by love. That to me was the interesting point, that in his youth he became infatuated with a man who was almost his dark twin. He was as brilliant, he was morally bankrupt, and Dumbledore lost his moral compass. He wanted to believe that Grindelwald was what he wanted him to be, which I think is what particularly a young person's love tends to do. We fill in the blanks in the beloved's personality with the virtues we would like them to have. So Dumbledore was wrong, and his judgment was very suspect at that time. And of course, it was more than being infatuated. Grindelwald appeared to be offering him a solution to this horrible dilemma. I mean, Dumbledore was not cut out, to his shame, to be a carer. He was cut out to go out onto the world stage and be a brilliant man. He knows that about himself, and he's ashamed of it. So it's a complicated issue, but yeah, that's the way I always saw Dumbledore. It wasn't a particularly big deal to me, and I had never once before been asked at an event about Dumbledore's romantic life. I'd been asked other things about him, but I have to say that until Hallows was published, people were mostly interested in the trio's futures and Dumbledore's backstory. In fact, I remember, Melissa, when you and Emerson interviewed me after Half-Blood Prince was published, we were talking about what fans should be asking, and I said Dumbledore's family. I didn't want to say Dumbledore's past, but Dumbledore's family would be a profitable line of inquiry, because I always knew that he had this tragic story from his late teens. There, that was a long answer.
No, it was brilliant.
But it was a full answer.
Oh, we love full answers.
I guess, people are going to yell at me.
Like you care, come on.
Okay.
I mean, we love when he starts sentences that way.
Just trying to save a little face. I know a few people out there have been wondering if Madam Hooch had ever been in love.
Do you know what? Madam Hooch really did not have any kind of romantic backstory. Well, not of my invention. I don't know. We'd have to go and trawl the fanfic for that.
I'm sure we'd find it, Joe.
Yeah, I bet we would.
I think there's categories of it, actually.
Yeah.
So we were talking about ships, though. Can we talk about romance at all?
Yeah, we can talk about romance.
I don't know. The last time we did this, Joe, quite a lot of hubbub followed.
Really?
But it's fun. It's fun hubbub.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
But before we get into romance, I wanted to get something cleared up.
Okay.
After we came back from Carnegie Hall, we brought back your message of Harry is kind of not really a Horcrux. And I don't want to dwell too long on Horcruxes, but I'd love to hear you talking about how he is or isn't or wasn't.
Well, I tell you, do you know what? This will not end the discussion. I know that and you know that, but here's the thing. For convenience, I had Dumbledore say to Harry, you were the Horcrux he never meant to make. But I think by definition, a Horcrux has to be made intentionally. So, because Voldemort never went through the grotesque process that I imagine creates a Horcrux with Harry. It was just that he had destabilized his soul so much that it split when he was hit by the backfiring curse. And so this part of it flies off and attaches to the only living thing in the room, and part of it flees in the very close to death, the limbo state that Voldemort then goes on and exists in. I suppose it's very close to being a Horcrux, but Harry did not become an evil object. He didn't have curses upon him that the other Horcruxes had. He himself was not contaminated by carrying this bit of parasitic soul. The only time he ever felt it stirring and moving was in Order of the Phoenix, when he himself goes through a very dark time. And there's a moment where he's looking at Dumbledore and he feels something rear like a snake inside him. And of course, at those times, it's because the piece of soul inside him is feeding off his emotions. He's going through a dark time, and that piece of soul is enjoying it and making its presence felt. But he doesn't know what he's feeling, of course. Also, I always imagine that the Sorting Hat detected the presence of that piece of soul when Harry first tried it on, because it's strongly tempted to put him in Slytherin. So that's how I see it. Now, I know that won't end the debate, but I do think that the strict definition of Horcrux, once I write the Scottish book, will have to be given, and that the definition will be that a receptacle is prepared by dark magic to become the receptacle of a fragmented piece of soul, and that piece of soul was deliberately detached from the master soul to act as a future safeguard or anchor to life and a safeguard against death. So that doesn't really clear anything up. I think it elucidates what I believe, but I don't think it's necessarily going to convince people who have a strong feeling one way or the other on the matter. You know what? That's been the case with most of Harry Potter. I give my explanation and it just fuels more debate.
Okay, I was thinking as you were talking about that just a second ago, I'd just been reading Philosopher's Stone. There was a chapter when Harry goes to sleep for the first time, and he's in his dormitory, and he has a dream that you wrote he never remembers again, and it was being tempted, go to Slytherin. I thought maybe at that point that might have also been that little piece of Voldemort in there wreaking havoc on his dreams really early on.
Well, of course, the pain he feels whenever Voldemort is particularly active is this piece of soul seeking to rejoin the master soul. When his scar is hurting him so much, that's not scar tissue hurting him. That's this piece of soul really wanting to get back out the way it entered. It really wants to. It entered this boy's body through a wound, and it wants to rejoin the master. So when Voldemort's near him, when he's particularly active, this connection. Oh my God. It was always there. That's what I always imagined this pain was. Yes. So there you go. There's a moment when Dumbledore casts a charm and you see a two-headed snake split.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
In Essence Divided? Yeah.
That's in his office, right?
It's in Dumbledore's office, and he suddenly does these strange, he performs this strange piece of magic in which he watches images, and these are his, and the snake dividing, that's the way he sees Voldemort's soul dividing. So he's playing through his own theory about what's happened, and his theory is, of course, correct. That Voldemort, as summed up by the snake, divided. So Harry never understood what the two-headed snake was all about, but that's what it was.
You just answered a question that people have been asking about, talking about that essence divided, what that meant. So
in essence divided, exactly. And the essence being the soul. So Dumbledore knew all along that he must have, he suspected until Chamber of Secrets. And then at the point where he saw what was clearly the remains of a Horcrux, in other words, the diary, he thinks, okay, there you go. And not only has he definitely done it, but he's got to have more than one, because he's treated this one very casually.
So can I ask this? This is kind of a random question, but if Harry had this Horcrux in him, sort of, would he have actually died, like say when the dragon could have killed him, or when he was falling during Quidditch or anything? Could he have actually died? Well, you've got to, if his body had been irreparably destroyed, he has to die to get rid of that piece of soul. His body has got to be irreparably damaged. So a lot of people asked, and I think I've answered this since, but a lot of people immediately said, having finished Hallows, but then that means in Chamber of Secrets when, he was pierced by the basilisk. Oh, right. But no, he didn't die. He didn't die. That was stated right in the beginning with the Horcrux. The receptacle has got to be destroyed. His body wasn't destroyed. He got a bit poisoned, and then he got the antidote immediately. So, that's not going to drive out this piece of soul.
Sorry if I sound frustrated, but occasionally,
No, that cleared it
you
up.
know what?
That's awesome.
Occasionally, you feel some frustration in that. People, please just read the book because it's there, and then ask something that's not there. That would be, which plenty of people do. Don't get me wrong, but on that one, I felt there was a certain feeling of weariness.
Now I'm nervous.
No, don't be nervous. It was, but because I was so careful with this stuff. And I don't know if you've seen on my website, I recently did a small number of updates. And
yes, thank you.
One of the things on there was, it's about the end and how Harry survived right at the end, that fight when he doesn't fight and Voldemort uses the killing curse on him. Well, it was important for me to say on the website, I never saw this, as in the finale, the denouement, the moment when Harry faces Voldemort, is prepared to die, and it doesn't die. That isn't like a scientific equation. Harry, it's not guaranteed. There has to be space to make Harry truly heroic for free will. It has to be his choice. The whole thing's his choice. He chooses to sacrifice himself, just as Lily chose to sacrifice herself. He chooses to pull himself back to life. And that's his own will and courage. So ultimately, those things, all of them, were more important than the magic.
Wow. My brain is firing in so many different directions right now because I got like 1,000 questions.
and I'm sitting here biting my tongue.
Because I want to ask you about your website, and then I want to ask you about love, and it's just like...
Yeah, we were going to talk about romance, and then we got sidetracked.
Yeah, sorry.
I am no Ravenclaw, and I read these books just because I love them, and I'm enamored of the world that you've created. And the one character I do see in myself is someone named Neville Longbottom.
I love Neville. I love Neville so much. Always loved Neville. And I always had big plans for Neville, And he really was the boy it could have been. Because, as you know, as I make clear, he was born hours before Harry. He was born on the 30th of July. Voldemort singled him out as the other possibility. But the great thing about Neville's story for me, the overarching story about Neville, is that he proves himself to be a boy who could have done it too. Yeah, Harry had the scar, and arguably Harry had an edge more talent, because he has an extraordinary instinct for the right thing to do. He's just got the right instinct, and that's what would make him in due course a phenomenal aura. But Neville was, I think, amazing in the final battle, and proved himself 100 times over worthy of being a Gryffindor, his parents' son, despite the very difficult childhood that he had at the hands of his very pushy grandmother. And I know she loves him and he loves her, but she's not an easy person to be raised by. So that for me was the big thing about Neville. He's not on a surface. I suppose he's not as cool when it comes right down to it, although Harry, of course, made himself cool. He was a scrawny little kid in glasses, and he comes through and becomes the guy everyone wants to know.
Yeah. The scene, you've written so many brilliant scenes, but I personally think one of your most powerful scenes was when Neville goes into St. Mungo's, and I understood when I was listening to that scene that Neville probably never had the love of his mom, and understood that, like, hugs, all he got were these
all he got were these elderly relatives who just wanted him to match up. Why aren't you matching up? And the trouble is, I think, that they would be the kind of people who forget what being young is like, and want him to imagine themselves to have been prodigies, and expect him to match up to really an impossible standard. So I felt so sorry for Neville from the word go, but I knew that he was going to have a comparable journey to Harry's, and he does. And bizarrely, Matthew Lewis, who plays Neville, has undergone a bigger physical transformation than any other person who works on those films, to the point that when I went to the read-through of Half-Blood Prince, that we were all sitting in this great square. They put all the tables from the great hall into this big square, so everyone's facing inwards for the read-through. And facing me were Dan and Rupert and Emma and Ivana and Bonnie and, the main lot. And then there's this really big, cool guy sitting there with a bit of stubble and wearing this woolen hat and a leather jacket. And I didn't recognize him, and my eyes pass on, and I sort of thought, that'll be the guy they've got playing McLaggen, And then I thought, where's Matthew? And I looked back, and my God, when did that happen? So he's really a very cool dude, and he and Devon and Ivana and Bonnie all came to my reception for Beedle the Bard last Monday. It was great to see them. It was so nice.
Oh, that's so cool. Cool. Can we just ask a kind of sad thing though? What did the Longbottoms do that they earned that wrath from Bellatrix? Such, there were 3 times like the Potters.
They were efficient.
The Dark Lord.
They were efficient.
Really?
That's all they needed to be to earn her wrath. They had rounded up Death Eaters. They were very good auras. They knew what they were doing. They were responsible for a lot of captures and arrests and imprisonments. And so there you are.
What about the 3 times the thrice defying of Voldemort?
Of James and Lily?
Of Neville's parents. Well, James and Lily too.
Well, I mean, it depends how you take defying, doesn't it? I mean, if you're counting, well, which I do, anytime you arrested one of his henchmen, anytime you escaped him, anytime you thwarted him, that's what he's looking for. And both couples qualified because they were both fighting. Also, James and Lily turned him down. That's established in Philosopher's Stone. He wanted them. And they wouldn't come over. So that's one strike against them before they were even out of their teens.
Rock. That's so cool. I was glad to hear more about them the night of their murder in Deathly Hallows, but there's still a little bit of confusion about that 24 hours, Joe. And then how did Dumbledore find out what happened in Godric's Hollow?
And what happened? There's this whole 24 hours that's like people have been fantasizing about for years.
Yeah, I know. I've got a bit of a problem with this myself because every time I think it's straight in my head, I go back and look at what the fans are theorizing about, and I think, yeah, maybe they've got a point. Dumbledore, well, there's an easy answer to how would Dumbledore know, because you can. One can.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I speak as though it's all real for a moment.
It is real. What do you mean it's not?
That's all we all do.
I know, exactly. That's how I feel as well. Yeah. So, okay. Obviously, Dumbledore could cast a charm on a dwelling that would immediately alert him if something happened to it. So he could know instantaneously. That's not a problem at all. And then he could dispatch Hagrid and so on. But I think the Scottish book will have to answer that question. I'm going to have to really go back through notes and either admit that I lost 24 hours or, I don't know, hurriedly come up with some backstory to fill it. Either way, you either get to be right or you get more story, so you can't complain.
Okay.
No.
Now I have to ask, and I don't know if it's something that you haven't even decided it yet. But when you do go back and you do, in 10 years, so be it, do the Scottish book, are you thinking more in line of an account of events, or more like small stories for things?
Well, to be honest, John, at the moment, but I'm not going to say don't hold me to this, but I'm just going to say this might change. But I imagined it as half of it. I mean, maybe on facing pages, but that might be difficult to do just through layout. But the ideal would be to have, say, on the left-hand side, you've got a page showing all your backstory, extra details on characters, or an entry on wands showing what every character's wand was and all of this stuff. And then I think also it might be interesting to have information about the actual writing and what I discarded. So on one side, it's acting as though the whole world is true and I'm giving you extra information on that real world. And on the other side, we're admitting that it's actually a fiction. And I'm showing, discarded plots, characters that didn't make it, problems in the plot. I think both lots of information are interesting. So it would be nice to unite both of them.
Absolutely. Because that sounds like a student's textbook.
Yeah.
Where in the margins they have fact tables and things, and then there's also like snippets of stories that they rescued from things, and then.
Well, exactly. To be honest, I think the point of doing it, if I'm going to do it, it's about doing the absolute definitive, giving people everything guide. Yeah. Well, I mean, everything. Could I ever give everything? But everything that I've got, put it that way. That's what I would aspire to at the moment. It might, for practical reasons, not be possible to do both sets of information in that way, but I would like to. That would be the ideal.
I think fans would wait 10 years for something like that.
Oh, well, if that's the case, then I'm delighted, because I don't, what I really, I don't want to get into, God knows, I do not this near Christmas want to talk about legal stuff. It's just too depressing, but I think there's no point me doing it unless it's amazing. I think there's no point me writing it unless it is everything. And the last thing I want to do is to feel that I have to rush something out because...
Right.
Do you know what I mean? My hand has been forced, or I've got to rush it out because there's demand and other people will fill it first. I think I want to do it right or not do it at all. And I really do want to do it right.
Well, I'll wait 10 years if you give me a little bit of the history of Hufflepuff, and then I'll be just happy.
Yeah, well, I would definitely, that's all of it. Yeah.
Oh, Hufflepuff.
It's been 130 some weeks and we've managed to get you on the show. So, I mean, 10 years, what's it matter?
Yeah, what's it matter? That's the spirit, John.
I don't know. You guys are being very permissive about this whole 10 years thing. I don't know, man. Let's not expand that. No, I'm kidding. Since you mentioned Hufflepuff, I want to ask a sort of specific question about Hannah.
Yes.
Hannah Abbott?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like
There's
her.
a line in Deathly Hallows when Harry sees someone that he thinks might be Hannah Abbott's long-lost relatives. What's her deal? Is she a Muggle-born? Did she lose her family?
Oh, you mean the grave?
Yeah.
No, she's not Muggle-born. I'm pretty sure Hannah's pureblood. I know her mother died.
In an old documentary, you showed a picture that had like all the family associations, and Hannah appeared to be Muggle blood in the fans' careful deconstruction.
Because
of that
I tell
picture.
you what, if that's the case, I've got that notebook, and that's one of my cornerstone notebooks. In that case, then I have been misremembering that because I thought she was pureblood. But interesting. Because I've certainly written about her and thought about her for years now as pureblood. So that's interesting. Maybe we'll just split the difference and call her half-blood. Yeah, that's how decisions are taken in the fairly random world of J.K. Rowling.
I didn't care, though, because Hannah goes on to become landlady at the Leaky Cauldron, my favorite pub, and I was...
Damn right she does. And I think that's a pretty cool career, and I think that makes Neville quite cool that he married her, don't you think?
Yes, it does. Woohoo!
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I
My
loved
pleasure.
It. I love your website. You made Hufflepuff, when you did the 4 founders, and you had all that stuff, so we are really, really grateful to learn about all those things. So
thank you.
Bring it on.
I know that the website's been really quiet lately. I said in my diary entry, people around me keep saying, it must be really quiet now. They have no idea. The second half of 2007 has been insane and manic and strange and full of stuff that I'd really rather not deal with. And I'm afraid to say the website's one of the things that kind of went by the by. I hoped by starting the website, which I've enjoyed so much, it's been a great way to directly communicate with fans and definitely the most effective way I could have found. I was getting a lot of pressure or a lot of requests to do a fan club, from people who wanted to run it and people who wanted to have a fan club. And I really didn't want to do a fan club because I thought that they're nearly never as good as they promise to be, and they're never free, and you've got to pay, and then a lot of material needs to be generated. And so I thought doing the fan site, creating that, at least it would be free and people would feel that, they were getting something. So if there was a quiet phase, then it wouldn't matter too much. I do need to update, and I will.
Yes, because we're dying about those wombats,
Oh, God. Listen, I've got to tell you, the wombats are done. I'm sorry. There are no more wombats.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I did. I worked really hard on those wombats.
But what was the purpose of them, though? Just for fun? Just to do those? I mean, why did you... If we felt like, oh, man, we're like...
I'll tell you what it was, and this is kind of sad.
Yeah.
I was told that it would be very unwise to put hints about Hallows on my site because we had enormous trouble on Half-Blood Prince because I had put hints about it, and then it was argued in court by people who wanted to put the whole book on the internet, or press people who had got hold of it and wanted to put it out early, and an argument would be, well, you put it on your site, so we have the right to put it up as well. So I was told it would be very foolish to start putting chapter headings and so on up. I would be weakening my own case against people who wanted to do spoilers. So then I started looking for something that I could give fans that wasn't foreshadowing. Although I hope you noticed, sorry, I'm going off at a slight tangent. Yeah. I was going to say to give fans stuff that wasn't foreshadowing Book 7, but in fact, if you were paying attention, Wombat 3 had loads of stuff from Book 7 in it. And no one knew and no one realised, including the lawyers. Yay! So I win.
Yay! Joe wins! Yes, you do. You go, girl.
Thank you.
So
actually, there was a whole lot of stuff in Wombat 3 that was taken from 7, and people picked up on it, on some of it. I had some stuff in there about Gryffindor's sword and a few other things. So,
will you put up the answers so that people can kind of figure it out?
I could put. Would you like that? Would that?
Yes,
we would love
please.
that.
That would be fun. Okay, that would be cool. It did amuse me. I can't remember. Someone gave some site gave a guide to what you should be putting, and I think people who followed their advice were not getting the top marks. So anyway, there you go.
I mean, I got an O on all of mine.
He
so I
did.
don't really
John,
need the
I'm sure.
answers.
Did you? Well, the embarrassing thing is my husband only got acceptable, and he was in the room while I was writing the questions and was listening to me telling him the answers. So what that says about how much my husband listens to me, I shudder to think.
That sounds very much like a Hermione Ron kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
we have our moments, believe you me. Yeah, so he got an acceptable and then got discouraged and didn't take another one.
Yeah.
That's very Ron.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ron and Hermione,
Yeah, did they graduate from Hogwarts?
yes, did they?
Harry and Ron didn't go back, Hermione did.
All by
Is
herself.
that, did you bet right? You must have. I mean, come on, no one's going to think Hermione wouldn't go back.
I predicted, yeah.
Of course she'd go back. She has to get her newts. Ron would. I mean, Ron was really done with schooling. I think that you know, it would be kind of tempting to go back just to mess around for a year and have a break. But he goes into the Aura department. He's needed. Anyone who was in that battle on the right side, Kingsley would want them to help clean up I mean, anyone, who's old enough to do it, who's over age. But Kingsley would have wanted Ron, Neville, Harry, and they would have all gone and they would have all done the job. And I think that would have been a good thing for them too, because to go through that battle and then be relegated to the sidelines, I think they would have felt a need to keep going and finish the job. So that would have been rounding up the corrupt people who were doing a Lucius Malfoy and trying to pretend that they weren't really involved.
Wow, awesome.
Wow. Yeah, we had all been thinking of these big complicated. We always overcomplicate things.
Yeah,
Like,
you do.
maybe they do this distance. They do this distance learning kind of thing where
Quick
they're
spell
working on
calls.
school from home. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I'm a
We
filch.
were imagining Hermione on the back of the dragon on the deluxe edition doing her newt.
Yeah, we did.
You know.
No, she would definitely go back, and she would want to graduate. And I think that she was. I mean, I love Hermione. She went with Ron and Harry because she has a really good heart. That's not about brain. Ultimately, she had a bigger heart than she had a brain, and that's saying something for Hermione. But was she naturally drawn to battle? No, she wasn't. She's not a Bellatrix. She's not a woman who actually wants to be hurting, fighting, killing. Not at all. She would be glad to go back to school, be glad to get back to study, and then would join them at the ministry.
Now, you know what I'm curious about now is that one of the neatest things I think about the Hogwarts tradition is the entrance ceremony. You know, from the whole riding the boats to the castle to the sorting ceremony. What kind of traditions is there for graduation and leaving Hogwarts?
Do you know, John, I'm really glad you asked that, because I felt a huge sadness that I wouldn't write a graduation scene.
Yeah.
You know, I really did. I knew from early days that we were never going to see them graduate. I knew that all three of them would not, we would not see them at school during what should have been their final year of education. But I really, during the final book, I kept thinking it would have been, I felt sad that the book wasn't going to end with that feast scene, the graduation scene, but it couldn't, it just couldn't. That's not the way it could have ended. It would have felt far too trite. And I mean, a lot of people felt the epilogue was too sentimental. I think to have them, a graduation scene on top of what had just happened would have been an absurd bit of anticlimax.
Did you have ideas for kind of traditions that they would do, ride the boats back out of Hogwarts or something?
Definitely.
Obviously, I'm not as good as thinking.
No, I think the boats would have been the most poetic and beautiful way for them to leave, and symbolic in that Harry wouldn't have seen the Thestrals again. You know what I mean? It would have been a return to innocence, really. And passage over water is so symbolic, in history of magic. So it would have been great.
Joe, you've just hit on something that happens all the time here on Pottercast. John says he throws out some nonsense thing that he just thought of off the top of his head.
It turns out to be accurate.
And then it's the perfect thing. And it turns out to be accurate. I can't tell you how much he got right in Deathly Hallows.
Well, I find that very interesting, because it's often those things that just strike you like lightning that are the right things. sometimes you have to work very hard for something, and finally something shifts in your brain and you just think, yes, of course, that's it. But I love it. There's no better feeling than when it just comes out of nowhere and you think, perfect, thank you.
Don't forget to tune in next week, guys, for part 2 with J.K. Rowling.
We've missed it.
Dobby is free.
I confess myself disappointed.
So yeah, that's that, and Merry Christmas, Happy late Hanukkah,
Yes.
Happy Kwanzaa, whatever it is you celebrate. We hope that you're having a great one.
And we will throw it back to the interview with Joe.
We have to ask this or we'll get yelled at. Draco Malfoy. Did he graduate, and who did he marry? It wasn't Pansy, right? Or was it?
No, God, it wasn't Pansy Parkinson. I loathe that girl. Mind you, I don't love Draco, but I really dislike her. She's every girl who ever teased me at school. She's the anti-Hermione. I loathe her. Yes, sorry, sidetracked there by my latent bitterness.
Awesome.
He married Astoria Greengrass.
Really? Check her name.
Greengrass sounds familiar.
Younger sister of Daphne. So she's 2 years younger than he was at Hogwarts. And anyway, there you are. That's who he marries.
Speaking of Gryffindor students, do you have the names of those 2 Gryffindor girls?
Oh, God. Do you know
Pressure's
what?
on.
I swear to you, I will find the damn notebook and I will put it on my website. I will put it on my website. That will be my gift to you.
Your whole notebook?
No, are you mad?
That'd be awesome.
That's for the Scottish book. No.
Of course.
Just the 2 names. I will put the 2 names
It's so funny
up.
because this thing has been, it's been like 5 years or something.
Exactly. We've been talking about that for 4 years, I think it is now.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not going to shatter the earth or anything once we figure out.
No, I don't. To be honest, I really don't think it will, because I never mentioned them once in the canon. So
yeah, it's just like a funny little,
Yeah. Okay. So the most important question: did they sample a recording of your dog for when they did your website?
Do you know what? I think they did. My website is really. That's not my wallpaper. I would really like the opportunity to say my taste is not that bad. That's not good wallpaper. Awesome. And with no offense to the guy who did the design, but loads of it's really accurate. Under the desk, I nearly used a very rude word. All the rubbish on the floor and on the desk was taken from life. They took a photograph of my desk and its actual.
Do you actually have a do not disturb sign?
Do you know what I now do? Because I took one out of the Balmoral Hotel where I finished Deathly Hallows. So I've got I now have a do not disturb sign from that hotel on the door of my study. Yeah.
Very
I
nice.
don't know if you recognized when we gave you that little basket in New York, we had done up some do not disturb signs in the same design of your site for everybody.
It was very, very, very cool. Thank you. It was great seeing you all there. That was the best event I've ever done. I loved that event.
It was
fantastic. Just being there for those moments, and you were just on a roll, Joe. Do
you know the sense of liberation? I cannot. No one, and I mean that. Maybe Stephen King. Stephen King maybe knows what it feels like, but I think that anyone who can, how you cannot imagine what it feels like after 17 years to be finished, both in a good way and in a bad way. It was so much part of my life. Now I know that millions of people feel huge ownership over the world now, and that's a wonderful thing that they do. They simply can't feel it the way I felt it. I know where I was when I wrote every part of those books. I know where I was when I thought of Quidditch and made up Professor Sprout, and all of these things are inextricably linked with stuff that was going on in my life at the time. And Harry really saved me during some bleak moments in my life. So it's been massive saying goodbye. But the upside, you saw the upside at Carnegie Hall, and that was you can ask me. Readers can now ask me anything, and I don't have to say, you'll find that out in book 5. I can't tell you that. Yeah. It's important for the ending of book 7. Oh, what a good question. Yeah. What a shame you'll find out in the next book. All that rubbish, which I know, no author wants to be constantly putting people off when it's very flattering that they want to know, but equally, the author knows how much pleasure you'll be ruining if you do spill the beans 3 years early. Right. So, yeah, but that night I was on a roll, you're right, because I had the best questions and the most amazing crowd turned up. That was a really magical night for me. Magical, the adjective that is most often used in connection with Harry Potter. Well, it's such a cliche, but it was. That night was.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of questions still for you, Joe. Like stuff about that mysterious Department of Mysteries. Can you tell us what was in the love room? I mean,
what was it called? What was that mysterious room? We don't know what it was in the love room. Yes, it was the.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
Well,
see, I told you I'm in Hufflepuff. You know, I'm not. You know.
No. I think what's in the love room is the place where they study what love means. So that room, I believe, would have at its center a kind of fountain or well containing a love potion, a very powerful love potion. You know that the first time they ever enter Slughorn's potions class, and he starts talking about Amortentia, the love potion, and he says it's the most dangerous one in the room. Well, that's what they would have found in the love room. Awesome. So you would see wizards and witches taking it. They would study the effects. The room, of course, has to be locked. And you know, again, there's this thread running through the books, what love does, and it raises people to the heights of absolute heroism, as in Lily, Harry, Neville. And it also leads them into acts of foolishness and even evil, which is Bellatrix, and also Dumbledore. He became foolish. He lost his center, his moral center, when he became infatuated. So that's what it does. That's what makes it dangerous. I mean, Bellatrix was, as I think is clear, but you know, I doubt that people will be particularly shocked to hear, because I'm sure they've deduced that Bellatrix is madly romantically in love with Voldemort. This is, you know, that's the obsession of her life. And I believe that Helena Bonham Carter had to be asked to tone it down after she was. The producer called me and said, you know, give me some background on Bellatrix so we can, you know, tell Helena about it. And I said, well, of course, it's a sexual attraction. She's madly in love with this man and obsessed by him. And apparently, they had to ask her to bring it down because she was being a bit too sexy.
Wow, that's so awesome. You know, you mentioned the movies. I mean, somebody who's most amazing in the movies is Alan Rickman as Snape.
Yeah, definitely.
He's so good. How soon did you tell him about his character? I mean, how much did he know?
He knew very early on that he'd been in love with Lily, because I told him so. We needed to have a conversation early on. He needed to understand, I think, and does completely understand, and did completely understand where this bitterness towards this boy, who's the living proof of her preference for another man, came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told him that. He was the only person who knew that for a long time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
He's so good. You know, Snape is so amazing. Was he truly meant to be in Slytherin, Snape?
Yes, yes, definitely. At the time when he was sorted, I believe what Dumbledore believes when he says to Snape in the very last book, sometimes I think we sort too soon. To judge someone at the age of 11, to judge them, to set their future course so young, seems to me to be a very harsh thing to do. And it doesn't take it into account the fact that we do change and evolve. A lot of people are at 40 what they were at 11, having said that. So I think the Sorting Hat is shrewd, but Snape does redeem himself, and it fails to take that into account. But then again, you could turn that on its head and say, but maybe with these people being sorted into Slytherin, someone who has the capacity to change themselves might also have the capacity to change Slytherin.
Yeah. Wow.
And how much is it that being sorted into Slytherin is, you know, sorted into good guys and bad guys here? Well,
they're not all bad. That would, you know, I know I've said this before, and I think I said it to Emerson. They are not all bad, and well, far from it. As we know, at the end, they may have a slightly more highly developed sense of self-preservation than other people, because a part of the final battle that made me smile was Slughorn galloping back with Slytherins.
Yes.
But they'd gone off to get reinforcements first, you know what I'm saying? So that, yes, they came back. They came back to fight. So, I mean, I'm sure many people would say, well, that's common sense, isn't it? Isn't that smart to get out, get more people and come back with them? Yeah. It's the old saying, there is no truth, there are only points of view.
Yeah. Well, Sue, you had started to get into the movies, and Joe was talking about being involved here and there and things. One of the things that I know a lot of fans are talking about, and is something that is sure to sustain all of the excitement and fun from Harry Potter, is the upcoming theme park attraction in Orlando.
How strange you mentioned that. I was just looking at some things to do with that just right before the auction happened this morning, so I've been looking at stuff to do with that today.
Care to share?
Well, I mean, we've all been wondering how involved, where you've been involved with. I know there's been rumors about some kind of theme park sort of thing happening for years, and to announce this one when they did recently, and everybody's dying to know, what to expect and how much of it is going to have the Joe touch.
I would have to say a lot of it's going to have the Joe touch because I've been very, very, very involved, which has been amazing. And Universal, I think I'm right in saying, and I know I may sound confused, but it is a very confusing issue, but I think I'm right in saying that these rights were Warner Brothers and not mine. However, Warner Brothers asked me, did I want it to happen? And I think they have been amazing in that respect. They, as the underlying creator, as it's known in legal terms, as the underlying creator of the series, they came to me and they asked me what I felt about it. And there were a few things that I really wanted to happen if it went ahead. And the key thing for me was that if there was to be a theme park, that Stuart Craig, who is the production designer on the films, would be involved. I mean, more than involved, that he would pretty much design it. Because I love the look of the films. They really mirror what's been in my imagination for all these years. And I just think he's done an incredible job. And, he's an Oscar-winning, very well-known guy in the industry, so it's not just me who thinks that. And he did consent to get involved. So I truly think that walking into the theme park will be as close as you will ever get to walking onto the film set or to walking into Hogsmeade. Better, of course, because it's 3D and you can walk around the corner and look at the back, and it's going to be quite incredible. I really believe that. I think it will be the best thing in the world of its type, having seen what I've seen.
Definitely. I mean, we've been studying those pictures that they put out, that artwork, and we're all very, very excited.
It's extraordinary. I can't go into detail about what they're going to do, but I've really seen a lot of stuff, and I think it's going to be wonderful and very well done. And I think that fans will not be at all disappointed, quite the reverse.
Awesome.
Joe, as long as you put in a good word for us to be the bartenders at the Leaky Cauldron.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult job, though. I think there's going to be a fair amount of traffic. You might want to rethink that one.
Yeah. For like a day. We'll make some butterbeer, take a picture, and it'll be done. I had to ask you, it's a little thing, it's just been on my mind. What happened to Florian Fortescue?
He was killed.
Aww.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want that to happen. Bizarrely, my best friend, after I named Florian Fortescue, she went and met and is soon to marry a guy called Florian, which is very bizarre because it's not exactly a common name, is it? And because of him, I was very attached to Florian Fortescue, but he died. He died.
Why? He's an ice cream man.
In the Scottish book will reveal there was more to that than subsequently made it into the books. It was one of those little subplots that had to be sacrificed because it was not really leading anywhere, but I did have a subplot planned for Florian.
Wow.
And it was to do with the Elder Wand. So I will definitely put that into the encyclopedia.
Speaking of the Elder Wand.
Yeah.
Can we talk about wand lore a little bit?
Absolutely. Thestrals.
Yes.
I noticed there was immediate angst about the fact that there was a thestral hair in the middle of the Elder Wand, because people were saying, but Hagrid bred thestrals, but he didn't. He just bred the Hogwarts thestrals. Just to make that clear.
Come on, people. There's a bigger world out there than Hagrid's backyard.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The only thing that Hagrid has ever created are blast-ended scroots, and I think we should all agree that he should never attempt to create a species again. So he didn't create dragons or thestrals, but he may have bred, particular species, members of the species.
I've been told my Patronus is a blast-ended
That's what
scroot,
I think it is.
So I don't know what that says about me.
I can think of one thing it might say about you, but I've never been in a room long enough with you to tell.
Yes, Joe, that actually holds true too. No, he loves burritos.
Does he really?
Burritos. I'm just saying.
Hey,
let's not go there. You're absolutely
That's a Pottercast thing, we love food on the show. We'll talk about food.
Quite a lot. But wand lore, can you go into more detailed, in a more detailed fashion, the way that the wands change hands and how different the Elder Wand is, because fans are confused.
Yeah, I am going to put up another update on my website about this, and I have one half written. Essentially, I see wands as being quasi-sentient. I think they awaken to a kind of, they're not exactly animate, but they're close to it, as close to it as you can get in an object because they carry so much magic. So that's really the key point about a wand. Now, their reactions will vary from wand to wand. The Elder Wand is simply the most dispassionate and ruthless of wands, in that it will only take into consideration strength. So one would expect a certain amount of loyalty from one's wand. So even if you were disarmed while carrying it, even if you lost a fight while carrying it, it has developed an affinity with you that it will not give up easily. If, however, a wand is properly won in an adult duel, then a wand may switch allegiance, and it will certainly work better even if it hasn't fully switched allegiance for the person who won it. So that, of course, is what happens when Harry takes Draco's wand from him, and that's what happens when... But you know what I mean? Oh yeah, Ron, the Blackthorn wand. Yes, from the Snatcher. Wand, So that would be sort of rough and ready, common or garden, a wand favouring the person who had the skill to take it. It would favour them. However, the Elder Wand knows no loyalty except to strength. So it's completely unsentimental. It will only go where the power is. So if you win, then you've won the wand. So you don't need to kill with it, but as is pointed out in the books, not least by Dumbledore, because it is a wand of such immense power, almost inevitably it attracts wizards who are prepared to kill and who will kill. And also it attracts wizards like Voldemort, who confuse being prepared to murder with strength.
Interesting.
Does that clarify anything?
Quite, and we're looking forward to reading your thing on it too. We hopefully didn't
step on it too badly.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I have been asked a lot of times, well, what about dueling club and so on? Well, I think it's clear there that in practice, where there's no real weight attached to the transference of a wand, where it's almost done for fun or purely for a competition, there's no enormous significance attached in either wizard's mind to a wand flying out of someone's hand. But there are situations in which the emotional state of wizards, where a lot hangs on a duel, that's something different. That's about real power, and that's about a transference that will have far-reaching effects in some cases. So I think the wand would behave differently then.
Very cool. One thing I wanted to make sure that we got to ask you, in 15 years' time, when the release of Albus Severus and the Return to the Dark Forest comes out.
Yeah, Albus Potter and the...
Right, yeah, exactly.
And the book they said would never happen, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, wow, did I not actually have a question? Was that just a joke? What a waste of everybody's time. I'm fired.
Go on.
Yes. Come on, Melissa, save me.
Well, how much of the Next Generation do you have worked out?
You'll see when you watch, or if you watch, the documentary that I've been doing.
Oh, very cool.
That I've been filmed for, because I do talk about that quite a lot.
Excellent.
Yeah, I have a lot of the Next Generation worked out. It's me. How could I not?
That's great.
Oh, it's just too fun.
We can't wait to see that.
I know. I hope you enjoy it. The reason for doing it was a lot of people had come to me and said, we want to do a 10 years of Harry Potter special program. And, they had all these different things. And for once I was ahead of the game. And a year previously, I had found a guy who I thought would just do a great documentary, a very honest documentary, someone I got on with well, which is James Runcie. And he's also an author. So he really, understood my life at a certain level that some interviewers don't. And, so we were filming for a year, and it was good, because again, this was a situation where I felt, as I do with the Scottish book, that if you're going to do it, then it should be done right. And I wanted to do something honest, and it was very nice to be able to answer questions on screen, looking back at the full experience rather than still living the experience as it was going on.
I can't wait to see it. So I think it's fabulous. I think people will just be thrilled. Thank you. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you. I think it will answer some questions, which will be good. And it's good to look behind the scenes in a way. And you see my haircut change a lot in here. It's very weird looking back.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, we know that you're short on time. So
I am. I'm sorry.
No. It's Joe.
You don't you dare apologize for anything. This has been amazing.
I've really loved it.
I want to tell you one quick thing. we had a test before Book 7 came out. We gave fans 400 questions.
Yeah.
And we asked them to guess what would happen in the Deathly Hallows. And out of 400 questions, our top winner got 350 of them correct. And he says his name is Ricky Carter and he's from Edinburgh, but I thought for a moment it might have just been your husband. But now after what you told us about the wombats...
No, there's not a chance it was Neil. And I know he won't mind me saying that.
But yeah, 350 questions out of 400.
That is very, very impressive.
What was his name, Melissa?
Ricky Carter?
Oh, okay. Good job, Ricky Carter.
Yeah, good job. No, that's excellent. You know, it would have been... I mean, people should have been able to guess a lot. Otherwise, I haven't done my job properly, or I've cheated the reader. The clues were there. A lot of the clues were there. But I think there were surprises. I don't think many people expected Dobby. But I have very good reasons for doing it. You know?
Hedwig.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hedwig's alive. Hedwig was part Phoenix.
Come on, Joe.
You haven't heard any of this?
Oh, dear God. Do you know what? That is the thing. I've got to say, I have virtually never read fan fiction. It's a tricky area generally for me, but it's those fan fictions that begin, because I've seen opening lines, those fan fictions that begin, my name is Lily Potter. You thought I was dead. You were wrong.
That's awesome.
Great opening. So there are so many that start like that out there. There must be one out there somewhere. My name is Hedwig. As I fell through the icy night sky. Yes.
Yeah.
You were wrong. Yeah.
You were wrong.
There's a lot of theories about Hedwig, but all in fun, all in the idea that yes, we know she's, you know.
No, that's cool. The fun stuff is very, very, very funny. I have frequently laughed myself stupid reading some things. Letters I get, they're amazing.
Well, Joe, will you promise that you'll come back?
Do you know what? I will promise that, because I would love to come back. I've had so much fun.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Wow.
We've had an awesome time.
It's been great. I've had an awesome time too. So I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, or whichever other religious festival you are keeping.
Thank you. Well, you know how we usually wrap the show up, Joe? We took a little inspiration from you, and we end it like we end the Potter Watch.
Love that. Yes, we did.
Did you like Potter Watch?
We had very big grins on when we read about the Potter Watch.
Poor Fred.
Poor Fred.
Joe!
I know.
Poor Fred fans. We didn't even bring up Fred. Whatever. Next time.
Whatever.
Next time.
John, I've got my hands over my face, and John's like, whatever.
I loved Fred.
There's a pet armadillo named Fred, even.
I know.
I mean, I was torn up about charity after all this, but... Until next time, guys, keep twiddling those dials.
The next password will be Horcrux.
Keep each other safe.
Keep faith.
Good night.
We've missed it.
Dobby is free.
I confess myself disappointed.
Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to bed.
Great Scott, no wonder. Look at the time. We've been here nearly 4 hours. Spooky how the time flies when one's having fun.
This had better not be about house elves.
Joe, it is. I'm sorry.
Hey, Joe! Hello!
Hey, Joe.
Hi! What? House elves? Go on then.
Still, they are still arguing about this, and I'm sick of it, and we need you to answer it so bad.
What I'm telling Sue is that if she remembered from when we talked about this in New York, Joe said that Helga Hufflepuff was a plantation
but she gave
owner.
Him refuge.
Of the house elves.
R-E.
Refuge.
Oh,
She didn't enslave them.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue. You know, I would say that Hufflepuff did what was the most moral thing to do at that time, and we are talking about over 1,000 years ago. So that would be to give them good conditions of work. There was no kind of activism there, so no one's going to say, "Here's an idea. Let's free them. Let's pay them." It was just, well, we'll bring them somewhere that they can work and not be abused.
Yeah, but she did not go around with like a whip and say, "Yeah, you must work in the kitchens," you know? Right?
No, definitely not. That would not be. No,
See?
No, definitely not, John.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Well, let's go into this further. Joe, we are about to get ready to start a recording here. We can talk about this for longer if you want. You want to join us for a show?
Well, I've got nothing better to do.